I spent 31 days in the ICU fighting for my life, and not one person from my family came to see me. Not my mother, not my father, and not my younger brother, Caleb. Every morning, I looked at the empty chair beside my hospital bed and wondered when someone would finally walk through the door. Nobody ever did. But I never imagined that while I was fighting to survive, my family was already planning what they could take from me. My name is Emily Carter. I was 38 and worked as a commercial construction contractor. I had built my career from nothing and had always been financially independent. My younger brother Caleb was the opposite. He was charming, careless with money, and somehow always surrounded by people willing to rescue him. When Caleb made mistakes, Mom called them rough patches. When I struggled, Dad called it character building. In our family, Caleb created problems and I was expected to solve them. Then one November morning, everything changed. I was walking through a construction site when a sharp pain suddenly tore through my abdomen. My coffee dropped from my hand and seconds later I collapsed. At the hospital, doctors discovered that my appendix had ruptured and the infection was spreading. I needed emergency surgery. Before they took me into the operating room, I called Mom. "Mom, I am at the hospital. They are taking me into surgery. Please come." I could hear music and people talking behind her. She told me everyone was busy preparing for Caleb's engagement. I begged her again, but she said the doctors were already taking care of me. Then the nurse took my phone. When I woke up, the chair beside my bed was empty. It stayed empty for 31 days. Eventually, I stopped looking toward the door. The empty chair had become an answer. When I was discharged, nobody came to pick me up. I took a ride home alone, carrying my medication while struggling to walk normally. That first night, I tried changing my own bandage. I dropped the tape, bent down, and pain shot through my stomach so badly that I ended up sitting on the bathroom floor. One thought kept haunting me. If I passed out here, how long would it take my family to notice? I recovered quietly. I worked from my laptop, walked a little farther every day, and tried to rebuild my strength. My family never called. Then one afternoon, my phone lit up. Mom. For 1 second, I felt relieved. I thought she might finally ask if I was okay. Instead, she told me Caleb and his fiancée, Lauren, needed a house. Their finances were bad and they could not qualify for the home they wanted. Since I was single and financially stable, Mom said I should sign my house over to Caleb that same day. Dad called soon afterward. "You have more space than you need," he told me. "Caleb is starting a family. You can buy something smaller." I reminded him that I had almost died. There was a pause. Then he said, "You are alive now. Caleb is the one who needs help." Something inside me went completely still. I did not scream. I did not argue. Instead, I ordered a cheap children's toy tent. When it arrived, I put it on my kitchen counter, took a picture, and sent it to Mom. "This is the only house Caleb is getting from me." Then I blocked her, Dad, and Caleb. 3 hours later, someone knocked on my door. It was my Uncle Thomas. He had been away for work and had no idea how serious my condition had been. When he saw me, he immediately asked why. Nobody had told him. I asked what he meant. He told me Mom had been telling relatives that I wanted complete privacy in the hospital and had asked everyone not to visit. I laughed because the lie was almost too cruel to believe. I had begged her to come. Then, Thomas told me something even worse. He had overheard Dad discussing a loan connected to Caleb. It was around $75,000, and my name had been mentioned as a guarantor. The next morning, I called my attorney, Daniel Brooks. He told me not to accuse anyone yet. We needed facts. We requested my hospital records. They showed there had never been a visitor restriction. My family had been informed about my condition. Nobody had been turned away. Then Daniel checked my credit activity. That was when we found it. A $75,000 loan application had been submitted with me listed as the guarantor, and my signature was attached. I had never signed it. The application had been submitted while I was still recovering in the hospital. Suddenly, the demand for my house made sense. They were not simply trying to help Caleb. They were trying to use my identity, my credit, and my financial stability to rescue him from problems he had created. Daniel immediately disputed the application and notified the financial institution that I had never authorized the loan. I saved every message and document. A few days later, Aunt Nancy called. Mom wanted me at Caleb's engagement dinner. She said it was time to settle everything as a family, so I went. The restaurant was beautiful, with candles, expensive food, soft music, and champagne. From the outside, our family looked perfect. Inside, everything was about to fall apart. Mom accused me of embarrassing the family. Dad said I was selfish for refusing to help Caleb. Caleb complained that I had always had more than him. I listened quietly. Then I placed my folder on the table. First, I showed them my medical records. No visitor ban, no request for privacy. Nothing had stopped them from coming. Mom tried to explain, but Thomas told everyone exactly what she had said about me wanting privacy. Then I showed them the message demanding my house. Lauren stared at Caleb. "You asked her to give you her house?" Caleb tried to explain, but the message was right there. Then I placed the loan documents on the table. The entire room went silent. My name was listed as the guarantor. Lauren looked at Caleb. "Did you know about this?" Caleb looked at his parents. He said nothing. That silence answered her. Mom suddenly stood up. "We were only trying to help him." I looked directly at her. "Using my name without permission is not help." Closed the folder and stood. Caleb followed me toward the entrance. "Susan, please. Just tell them you knew about the guarantee. We can fix this." I stared at him. He was not asking how I was feeling. He was not apologizing. He was asking me to save him again. I thought about the ICU, the empty chair, the nights I could barely stand, the family who had not visited me once. Then I finally understood our entire relationship. Every time Caleb created a problem, someone expected me to sacrifice something to solve it. Not anymore. I told him I was finished fixing problems I did not create. Then I walked out. The consequences came quickly. The loan was stopped before it became my responsibility, and the investigation continued. Lauren postponed the wedding and eventually ended the engagement after discovering other debts and financial secrets. Caleb had hidden. Mom blamed me for destroying her son's future. But I knew the truth. I had not destroyed his future. Had simply stopped protecting his lies. Months later, Caleb sent me a short apology. The old me would have answered immediately and asked how I could help. Instead, I deleted the message. 6 months after the engagement dinner, I sold the house my family had tried to take from me. Not because they won, but because I finally realized I did not need that house to prove anything anymore. I bought a smaller home closer to work. It had large windows, quiet mornings, and enough space for the life I actually wanted. One evening, I became sick with a terrible cold. A close friend showed up carrying soup and groceries. She sat across from me, made me laugh, and stayed until I felt better. I looked at the chair across from me and suddenly remembered the ICU. For 31 days, I had stared at an empty chair wondering why nobody came. Now, someone was sitting there. Not because I had money, not because I owned a house, not because I could solve a problem. She was there simply because she cared. That was when I finally understood something my family had never taught me. Blood can make people related. It cannot make them loyal. Real love does not ask you to destroy yourself so someone else can live comfortably. Real family does not appear only when they need something from you. Sometimes the empty chair beside you is painful because it shows you who is missing. But eventually, you realize it also shows you who you no longer need. I spent 31 days fighting to stay alive. My family used that time to decide what they could take from me. In the end, they lost something far more valuable than a house. They lost access to the woman who had spent her entire life saving them. And I finally gained something I had never understood before: freedom.